Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about relationship and helping out men when it comes to the ladies and they're in a bad mood. Because sometimes you can be just doing all the right things and all of a sudden you get these words, we need to have a talk. I'm not happy. Those words can be one of those fighting words. It's like, wait, what? Like, you need to talk? Like, what do you need to talk about? Or like, you're not happy? Like, why you're not happy? Those actions or those words can lead to actions that might include stonewalling, yelling, picking fights, and it creates a minefield. I said, you know what? This is so common in relationships where one person just wants to start something, right? Don't start nothing, won't be nothing, they say. But guess what? When a person wants to start something, right, there's going to be something. And I'm not going just to chalk this up to, time of the month for ladies. And I'm not going to chalk it up to what society is doing and what's happening to society. This is all a mindset, and this is all about expectations. Because if you have a relationship where you understand each other to the point like, hey, let's communicate if something is not going exactly the way, or if I'm feeling off, what do we do about that? It's important that you understand how to navigate through those issues. And today I'm going to be walking you through the blog that I created, a guide for men to help them understand and to navigate through troubled waters when their lady is not happy for whatever reason it is. All right, everyone, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share the video and your audio to help build a community of like-minded individuals. And today, this one is for the men, but this one is also for the ladies, because I want the ladies to understand that sometimes you do things that are just difficult for men to navigate. What I want to talk to you about today is the minefield that we make. Sometimes we can just be in a mood, we can be in a huff, and then we're trying to get our point across, but we get it across in a roundabout way. There's a way to be direct and there's a way to be passive. And we cannot be passive in our relationships. We have to be direct, because if we're telling someone we're not happy in a relationship, well, what does that mean? If we need to talk, well, why do we let it get to this point, and why did we not talk before, right? Because it gets to that breaking point, the boiling point. And we even talk about mindset and how people take initiative and take drive. They wait until that boiling point, that trauma, that hardship, that challenge that was given to them, that they don't have a choice at this point, and they have to make the change. So in a relationship, we have to make the change to not allow things to get to the point where it's a battlefield, where it's all out war. I don't know if I'm going to get out with all of my limbs, and I don't know if I'm going to get out unscathed, but we can set ourselves up for success when it comes to relationships. Men, you're going to be dealing with, mood swings in the universe and society and what's popular and what's trending. There's going to be a lot of things that you have to worry about. And in this blog, I'm going to be talking about, well, what are the cues? What are the things you have to be looking for when she says certain things? And I'm going to be breaking it down a little bit different today on the podcast, but I encourage you to read this blog so you can learn how to navigate through the minefield. And we're going to talk about today, well, what is that minefield? Why is it there? And does it help us in our relationships? So before I go into the blog, got to give a shout out to Mom Dukes. All right. That's Mommy Reardon. She is a little bit older today. Her birthday's today, and we want to celebrate that, right? We want to let her know that you are appreciated, because if she wasn't here or she didn't do the things she did, I would not be here. That is the gift. That is the gift that a woman can bring to a man, that a woman can bring to the world, can bring in life to the world. And we do have to understand that that life that she created took some sacrifice, right? 9 months of carrying the baby, taking care of the baby when the baby's born, nurturing and loving the baby until they're finally an adult and they're out of the nest. They go off and they have their own kids now. During that time, right, she has to work through all of her traumas and hardships and challenges and her work woes and her relationship woes. It can create a lot of issues. And if I just look at my parents' marriage really quickly to be the example of the minefield. My mom is Hispanic. She's very, I guess you could say, feisty in the relationship. She has calmed down since she has now become more mature. But when she was younger in the marriage and when she was raising us, she would fight and throw pans and break glasses and stuff like that. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm just saying that was her nature. Okay. And it's difficult for a man to go into that environment and have to navigate through that, right? She's upset because there's some dishes in the sink, or, she's upset because, like the house hasn't been vacuumed, or she's upset that the garbage hasn't been taken out. And we get upset for these minuscule things. So it's like she's driving home from work and like, I'm driving home from work and I'm like, there better not be a dish in the sink. I'm driving home from work, that garbage better be taken out. I'm driving home from work, the house has better be spick and span and you better be doing what you're supposed to be doing or whatever, right? But it's crazy. It's crazy because when she had the opportunity to be a stay-at-home wife and my dad went out, make the money, and then she had to cook and clean and make sure there was no dishes, guess what she did? She didn't do the dishes. She didn't do the cooking and cleaning every night. Yes, she did it, but it wasn't to the point of the standard that she was giving my dad at the time or the family at the time. So we give ourselves a hardship, and typically that hardship is work, comes from work quite often, right? We just have stress from work. It could be stress from family too, from friends, from society. That right there creates the minefield. Oh, like this affects me. This is affecting me. And guess what? Is it the guy's fault? No, it's not, but it's sure as hell his problem now. So now the man has to go into the relationship and yeah, you had a stressful day at work and maybe your friend did this and your siblings or your parents did this and it's causing you all these problems, mental problems, psychological problems, issues that we're giving ourselves. And it creates that minefield that I was talking about. How do we navigate through that? Because if someone is giving themselves their own problems and we know eventually their personality is going to come and bring them to us and make them our problems, what do? Do we just say, hey, you know what? Like, your problems are not my problems. You need to figure this out for yourself. You need to stop talking to this person or giving yourself this type of problem or being in this environment. You're doing this to yourself. This is self-inflicted mutilation almost. You are giving yourself negative thoughts, negative mindsets, a negative outlook on what is happening. So now your emotions are everywhere. They're scattered. They're not controlled. Yet again, we are in control of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Why don't we control them? Why are we just so quick to say, well, I'm trying to fix something and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm going to get to the bottom of my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. When really it just requires introspection. That means you slowing down and you looking on the inside of you, because we give ourselves a lot of problems and they don't have to be there. For example, right? I gave an example of how my mom would go to work and then she would come home and she wants all this stuff done. But then when she had the opportunity to not go to work, she didn't even get the stuff done that she wanted done when she was going to work. So hypocrisy, number one. But then number two, that's just mindset there, right? We don't understand how much work it entails to be that person that stays at home, that makes sure everything is done, especially exactly the way that someone wants them. There's no expectations. We talked about expectations. We have been talking about expectations. We will continue to talk about expectations because this is an expectation, not even talked about. Yet we want the results. Yet we want the actions. Yet we want to create the behaviors, but there's no expectations there. So if there's no expectations, how can we expect the results? And this is where we are as people or as relationships. We don't create the expectations. We just create the ideals. This is my ideal. I want this done. But you might not even tell the person you want this done. They should just know. I'm sure you probably heard that one. They should just know to take out the garbage. Okay. Did you talk about that? No, we didn't talk about it, but they should know. But how would they know? How would they know? Truly, honestly, how would they know? They won't. So we create that minefield of they should know. I want to be happy. I'm doing all this work and they're not doing anything. Anyone can say that, right? That's the excuse. That's the reason we give ourselves to be combative. Yet again, being a stay-at-home wife is a job. Being a parent is a job. understanding that the house is not going to clean itself and being responsible. There's things that need maintenance and constant attention and care, just like our relationships. They need that constant maintenance. And what happens when we don't give the maintenance, when we don't give the attention? Our emotions, they become a mine, right? So the concept of what I'm talking about, relationship advice for men, the minefield she created. Women are very emotional. They're very emotional. And there's nothing wrong with being emotional. Those emotions are important to be a woman, to be feminine, and to raise children. But she creates that minefield for herself. This, right? But there's no communication. There's no chance to diffuse the mind before she digs it into the ground and says, well, I forgot where it was. And it's not until the man just nonchalantly just walks around thinking everything's okay that, like he doesn't know there's a minefield there, accidentally steps and one blows it up and boom, we have some trouble. Crazy cycle, right? There's going to be blood in the streets, right? Issues in the marriage, right? There's going to be conflict that needs to be resolved. Yet again, why do we even dig the minefield? Yet again, why did we not even put up some signage saying, hey, just let you know, I'm having this issue right now. Just want to make that aware to you. And it's crazy because I saw it in my parents' relationship and their marriage, and they were always going at it. I read a lot of books about relationships because I want to make sure that when I'm working with clients that I have different views of how people grow up in relationships. And then I ask people, well, what type of relationship did you have? And then I ask, well, what type of relationship would you want? From there, I can get a good understanding of where they are mentally. And then we can make some adjustments to give them the perfect relationship, and not just the perfect relationship, right? Their ideal relationship with their values and their expectations all in alignment. With that being said, that is what that is. But then I look at my parents' relationship again, right? It's all these problems, all these fights. And it's like, why can't you two get along? Like, you guys got married. You guys have kids together. Why can't you get along? Because no one ever taught them. Because that is what it was. My dad did not have a father, so he was raised by a single mother. So he didn't know how to navigate through, emotions and stuff like that. It was kind of like, okay, well, my mom needs this. My mom wants this done. I got to get it done. And then, so now he's just like, all right, I'm just going to keep doing me. Now, my mom, her parents, they're passive. I only seen them fight one time. And it was because of, just a belief, right? Like, I don't know why you're doing this. Like, this doesn't make any sense in it. Emotions were triggered. Only saw them fight once. But that right there, right? You have just kind of a passiveness in the relationship too, where the person is not really communicating with what's really going on. But when they do communicate with each other, it was a big issue. So that stems into mindset now. So maybe my mom didn't want to communicate saying, hey, like, this is a problem. Or the way she addressed it to my father was like, hey, this is a problem. Like, you need to stop this, or you need to get out, or you're a loser, right? This is very common. I read this in books where the woman just berates the man, right? Belittles him. And when you belittle someone, when you berate someone, do you think they want to take action? They don't. They won't. Ladies, like, when you're yelling at your man, how you do it, are you trying to get him to take good action? Or are you trying to him to not take any action? Because if you're being negative, if you're ridiculing him, if you're making him feel not like a man, inferior, he won't do what you want him to do. And if he does do what you want him to do, you're going to resent it, number one. And then number two, it's not going to be long lasting. He's going to go back to his old habits. I see all this, right? Read all these books and everything. And then I said, well, let me look at my relationship too. Like, why are we not fighting like my parents did? Or why are we not being passive like my grandparents? Or why are we not in a broken household? Came down to mindset, communication, and understanding and awareness, right? All of that, right? It all encompasses that. Because when we started our marriage, right, we had to learn each other, right? Right? You bring someone into your house, and now it's like two people living under one roof. And are you roommates or are you husband and wife? right? And then there was that learning curve there. And one of the negative things that happens, especially when the minefield starts to create, is a term called stonewalling. Stonewalling is a fancy word to say, I don't want to talk to you. I'm just going to do what I have to do, and I'm just going to ignore you. I'm going to pretend you don't even exist. There's issues there because guess what happens when you stonewall? You start planting those mines. I'm going to make a minefield over here. I'm going to make a little minefield over here. And before you know it, you have a whole minefield that the person is going to be stepping on the moment they do something that you don't approve of. For example, it's dinner time. I say, okay, well, I'm going to go get some food. And the person is like, okay, right? They don't say anything. So the guy goes out, gets some food, comes back home. He didn't give her any food, right? He didn't get her, nothing because maybe he even asked her, hey, you want anything? No, I'm good. Stonewall. No, I'm fine. So now she doesn't eat. Now she's upset. She's hangry. Minefield. Okay, I see how it is. You didn't give me nothing. Okay, but you didn't want anything. You didn't ask. You didn't speak about it. You didn't communicate. So that was what was happening in the beginning of my relationship. We had that issue with, I don't want to talk to you. I'm just going to do me. And minefield. Don't set it off. You better not set it off. And so we didn't argue. We didn't yell. We didn't scream. It was just no communication. And then it got to the point where it's just like, well, what are we doing? Are we roommates? Like, this doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? Why are we creating this minefield for no reason? If you do something that gets me upset, I'm going to be upset. And if I do something that gets you upset, you're going to be upset at me. But yet we're just not communicating about it. And then we implemented a system. The system was communication, right? We said, all right, let's talk once a month. Let's create open areas for communication. And then let's learn each other's schedule. For example, if she's busy with schoolwork, I know not to be bothering her and talking to her and stuff like that. I might ask her a quick question. And she might say, I'm busy or something like that. And actually, we're not allowed to say we're busy in a relationship. But she might say something like, hey, I'm doing schoolwork right now. And I might say, well, just answer this question. I'm going to leave you alone. I say it like that. Because if I don't say it like that, then she's just going to think, well, he's just going to keep bothering me. It's like, I just want to know this one question. Just give me this one answer and I'm gone. Do you want some food? Yes or no? What do you want? I'll get it for you. Now, if she says she doesn't want any food, I say, okay. And then I'm going to keep doing me. Eventually, she's going to get hungry and then she's going to come to me and she'll be like, hey, well, I need some food. The issue with what happens or what had happened in the beginning was she would come to me when she was finally hungry because she said she wasn't hungry. And then get upset because I'm in the office working, I'm meeting with people. There was issues. You told me when I had time on my lunch break that you didn't need anything. And then now that I'm busy, I don't have the time to cater to that. You can't be upset. Minefield, right? So like she was creating those minefields for herself. And then it's like, listen, we don't have to lay down any mines. We're not at war with each other. We should be at peace. We should be a team. We should be working together. And then at that point, things started to smooth out where it's like, okay, well, we can talk, right? If something is wrong, we just tell the person. And then, of course, we learn about the person, the expectations, and then, of course, mindset, how someone thinks. When we are in a relationship, we should know the person that we're with. For example, you might know that they like a certain type of food. And if you ever get the feeling that they're overwhelmed, that they're struggling, maybe that's a good opportunity to say, you know what, maybe you need some food. Maybe you need to take a break. Reset your brain. And that's what we need to do sometimes. We need to take a step back and understand what's about to happen. And in this blog, Relationship Advice for Men, the minefield she made is not only going to be helping you understand about the idea of her giving herself issues and problems, but also about giving you solutions. And I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway here, is about finding the solutions to the problems that happen in a relationship because of lack of communication or lack of understanding of your partner. So there is no perfect relationship. There is no way to avoid all conflict in a relationship. But you can get to the point where you understand your person, where you know that maybe I shouldn't do this. Or maybe I should ask them if this is right or wrong. And I remember, going back to my mom, happy birthday, Mom. One morning I made breakfast or something like that. And I think I made like pancakes or eggs or something like that. And she was upstairs sleeping. Now, she's sleeping. I'm thinking in my head, like, she's sleeping. Why in the heck am I going to make her breakfast? Again, a young man. I'm making myself some food. I'm hungry. I need some food. Well, eventually she wakes up, right? She works nights. So she wakes up and she goes, where's my food? I go, huh? You're sleeping. And then she's like, all right, I'm going to give you a lesson. If you make food, you always have to make food for your woman, your wife or whatever. I go, duly noted, right? So whenever I made breakfast, I always made breakfast for her at that point. And then sometimes she ate it, sometimes she didn't. I'm just like, it's a waste of food, but hey, whatever, right? I'd rather do the action, learn the skill. And then if they want to eat, they eat. If they don't want to eat, I'll eat it later, right? I don't mind leftovers. So when my wife had the baby and was pregnant and things like that, sometimes she would just be up all night with the baby and stuff like that. So she's tired. And then when it's time for breakfast or lunch or whatever, I'll make food for both of us. And it was not so much of I'm making food because she asked for it. It's just because I remember the conversation with my mom saying, if you make food for yourself, make some food for her. And guess what? You don't even have to ask what type of food she wants, right? You just make whatever you want, whatever you're having. And if she wants it, great. She can eat it. And if she doesn't want it, she can make her own damn food, basically is what my mom said. And so I alleviated a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues that would create the minefield. And I remember one time in my marriage, one morning I made breakfast. So I made a certain type of breakfast and I knew I was going to have the same breakfast the next day because I do a lot of meal prepping and stuff like that. My wife says, I don't want this breakfast tomorrow. All right. So don't worry about making me breakfast. I said, okay, not a problem. The next day comes, I make breakfast. I make the same exact breakfast, the breakfast that she says she did not want. I did not make it for her. She wakes up. She comes into the office. She goes, where's my breakfast? I said, you told me you didn't want that breakfast. And then she walks away. She's thinking, I'm going to lay a minefield. I'm going to put a mine down, right? Because he didn't cook me anything. But then I said, you have to be very clear in what you want. You said you didn't want this food. You didn't want this breakfast. I said, okay, we agreed upon that. If you're upset because of that, you need to be very clear and concise of what you say to me, how you say it, and of your choices. And from that point, she's never said, I don't want any food or breakfast that you're going to make. It's always, okay, now I know me. And that is where we are, right? Knowing the person, knowing yourself well enough, right? Your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, you control them. And then understanding, you call them out because you can give a person exactly what they want. And then you find that they're not happy, but then you bring it to them. But you remember you told me this. You remember you said this. And the moment you do that, it's like a spark, boom, a firework goes off in their heads. And I'm talking about men, talking to their ladies. Something goes off in their head. Oh, wait, I did say that. And then from there, I'm not saying you won, but now we're on the right path. All right. Because now we can get in order. We can get back to order in our relationship. And that's what we want. We want our relationship to be in order, in tip-top shape. And we don't want it to be a war zone. We don't need all those mines. We don't have to tiptoe through life anymore. We know what we're getting into. And that's important. You know your partner, you know the routines, you know the structure, and then from there you can have a good relationship. It's not easy. It requires work. It requires dedication, but the end goal is going to be peace. And every man, again, wants peace. Woman, give your man some peace, but men, understand you have to know your lady in order to get that peace. Otherwise, you're always going to be in a war zone. You're always going to be navigating through a minefield, and you're always going to be left bothered because there's no peace in war. All right. So figure that out. Figure out what your relationship needs. And of course, if you need help, head over to revenconcepts.com. Get yourself some coaching. Get yourself some relationship advice. Set yourself up for success. And that just means that you're giving yourself all the tools you need in order to come out on top with the victory, with the W. That is the goal, right? To make sure that you're in the best place possible. My name is Michael Reardon. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me, coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.